2, 1.
What up, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, it is my favorite day of the week, SHIT. So happy it's Thursday. Let's do this.
Shut up and sit down.
The Business Bros Podcast was created for you. Learn from the business professionals who come to share their stories. Find out what's working in business and social media, what's hot and what's not, straight from the mouths of successful entrepreneurs out there doing the real work. And now, welcome to another episode of
Business Bros. Damn. All right. Well, you got the two of us again. Why? Because sometimes we get very last minute cancellations and we got to switch things up. So here we go. For today, what we're going to do is we're going to drop it in the chat. So if you're interested, I want you to hop on here. We're going to be talking about lead generation. We're going to be talking about how do you lead generate? If you don't want to hop on with us live and join the conversation, that's fine. Drop it in the chat. Drop a comment. I want to know how you are doing your lead generation. Because James and I have been talking about this pretty much all day. For the last few hours, we've been talking about lead gen. Now,
My brain's tired.
My brain's tired, right? So here's this scenario, for example, right? So we started the podcast mainly to help me lead generate for building relationships in selling real estate, right? That was the initial idea behind it. And as we started doing the podcast more and more, we started to make a lot more connections and we started to kind of develop relationships. And it's helped a lot for lead gen when it comes to, doing business on my tax business. That totally helped out. It's helped out a lot with real estate as well. I get more referrals in real estate than I've done in the past. I'm not actively doing anything other than the podcast, and it's generating referrals for that, right? Lead generation for that.
So it works.
It works. And we've been lead generating for content creation. So we've been doing content for other people, as well as doing testimonials, as well as doing podcast mentorship. So the lead generation for us and what we've been doing on the podcast space has been working phenomenally well for those types of things, right? Business Bros, that kind of makes sense.
I'm gonna go a little bit further on that. Like, we've done a really good job of creating a marketing structure for the way that we do things. But there is one thing that we have been called out on that we lack, and that is ad spend. We don't spend any money on marketing. So everything that we do, however far our reach might be, it's completely organic and, without any extra marketing dollars. So that's one thing that, could be different. If we're talking about how to generate leads, that's one thing right off the top of my head that I'm gonna be like, that's one thing that we can change.
Right. And actually we did change officially this week. I brought on a VA, right? And in the main role of this VA is to help restructure our branding. See, our branding's cool, right? I mean, we got the little logos here, and I've been able to learn a lot about Photoshop and video editing. You go to our Instagram, it's decent, right? But it's not 100% right on. Ooh, we got Jeff hopping on. Woo! Jeff,
hey,
what's
Jeff?
up, brother?
Another person I've been talking to all day.
So we were talking about marketing, branding, and lead generation. And it's funny because, James, I actually been talking to Jeff a lot about this same exact topic as well. I mean, we've gotten good at the podcast lead generation. Literally, our list is 8 weeks long. And so what I was saying, Jeff, was I brought on a VA this week, and she's helping us with kind of creating our content in a more direct way, focusing our attention on growing our YouTube channel, right? So we have specific direction that we're throwing money at for the podcast. But James and I have been talking all day about the insurance agency. And that's been a whole different thing, right? So I'll share with the audience where we're at. The model that we've created was based on recruiting new agents, right? So if we go out and we find a new agent who has another business, maybe their primary business is a tax office or their primary business is something other than insurance. What we were doing was recruiting those types of people and saying, hey, look, we got a system because I know you're busy that will process all your insurance clients for you. But recently we haven't been recruiting those kinds of people. And we've been wondering, like, what happened to our, like, why are we not lead generating? What's going on? And so we've been looking at different models because the model that we have right now, we're not lead generating in. And that's kind of the conclusion we came up right before we started talking on the podcast. We're
Literally
like, oh crap,
5 minutes.
it's 4:00. We got to get going
Yeah.
right here, right? So what's been your experience, Jeff? What are you guys doing to grow your agency, right? And what's up, MJ? What's something that's worked, and what are some things that you've tried that hasn't really worked?
We've tried a bunch of different things. Hopefully you can hear me. The internet is not that great down here.
We're
We've done, one of the things that worked, we generated leads, but they weren't the quality that we were looking for, was actually webinars. So, because one of our niches is businesses that want to bring their companies from the US or from the Mexico into the US. And we were doing webinars for those individuals, but we weren't getting. So we were getting leads, but they weren't the quality that we wanted, and that was actually one of the challenges that we ended up kind of stopping that marketing strategy because we just weren't getting, like I said, the quality that we needed. So that was one of the things that we did. After talking with Hernan a little bit, one of the things that we're trying to do is expand our daily podcast, Lunch with a Shark, to go after more 6 and 7 figure business owners that are really looking to grow their business in a different way. And so we just started that a few weeks ago, and so far the guests that we've had are good quality guests that are really looking to expand their business. So.
And that's a good strategy. So just for the audience's sake, Jeff and I have been talking a lot about his podcast, right? About doing Lunch with the Shark in a different way. Because what happens to a lot of podcasters out there is you get in a groove of doing something, and then you kind of hit a plateau of your audience growth, and you start to really think about, why the hell am I doing this? Right? Why am I doing this particular podcast? What's up, Derek? Good afternoon. Thank you. And so when you guys were doing Lunch with the Shark, and you're doing it like us, you're crazy cycles just like us. You're doing it every single day, and you're really starting to weigh the time that you're spending and the time commitment that you're putting into the show. You're like, okay, well, I'm building this podcast. I'm here every single day. I'm not seeing the results that I'm looking for. So share with the audience what our conversation was like when we were talking about, why are you doing the podcast, and what should you be doing to grow your audience that way?
That was actually why I called you, because I think that was we were both, because we're just not getting a lot of views, and that was a real big challenge for us, because part of doing the podcast was was to create content, was part of it. But now what we've done, 350 some odd episodes, we have a crap load of content. So it's not a matter of us generating more content. It's about generating us business. And so we had to figure out a different way to bring on guests that maybe needed, that gave us a new perspective, or created a new way that we could, help them with their business, or help them with our business. So creating more connections, and trying to use their community and their outreach to help increase our viewership.
And it's funny because that transition took us about 100 episodes to make, right? So James and I were doing our show, and it was okay. Mom listened, a couple listeners here and there. We met Bonnie, by the way, who's one of our clients now as well. And so we met her. We had a couple different coaching calls. And it was doing its thing kind of, but we had kind of fallen in the same trap. And I was like, you know what, when Liam recommended, my son, right? When Liam recommended that we do interviews, that differently opened up a different space. Now it was a matter of, well, who do we want on the show? Right? Like, who is the person that's going to come on, and what kind of connections do we want to make? And initially we made a mistake there too. I was like, okay, well, how do I get more real estate transactions? Oh, it's easy. I interview real estate agents. Well, not necessarily. It did help solidify my expertise in that area, like my knowledge base in that area. I learned things from other agents that I didn't know. I also was able to share things about how I run stuff on real estate that maybe they didn't know. So it gave me that credibility, but it didn't really lead generate what I was looking for. So we kind of shifted a little bit and we're like, okay, well, let's just open up the business space, because what is it that I really like to do? And I don't know about you, Jeff, but for me, it's always, when you call and you're like, hey, I'm having this problem, that is my favorite thing. I probably should have been a therapist or something, right? But it's more like a business therapy thing. It's like, let me hear what's going on in your business and let me share my ideas and my experience and what I've been doing to grow or change or whatever. Because, when we sit down and have a conversation, you and I, it's like, aside from talking WandaVision and by the way, I did watch Upload, great show, by the way. So aside from that, when we start talking about business, it can go an hour or longer easy, just because we start going into the different crevices about what's going on in your business, right? What are those business therapy sessions? What do they feel like when we're going through them and when you're done?
It's great. I think that was one of my key takeaways when we had our conversation about the podcast was trying to figure out, what are we exactly doing with it? And I think, both for Vidal and I, it was like a new way to kind of bring in additional eyeballs to the podcast and really start talking with people at a level that that can really elevate not only our business but their business. We had a really cool guest yesterday that he developed a thing for your collar, like dress shirts. And he was actually a really, really cool guest. And then the week before, we actually talked to this guy who was CEO of a zoo. And same thing. He actually was a really cool guest. So it's about expanding your kind of looking at the different ways that you can bring people to the table and, helping grow not only your podcast, but also business, and talking to them about different ways that they can help grow their business.
Yeah, and we were talking about that yesterday, James and I, about how when we started to connect with different people today, now it's opened up the door to a bunch of different things. We've been able to get, aside from like the swag on the wall, different training opportunities, different coaching programs, different trial offers for a lot of different stuff that we've been able to do because of the podcast. That and from there, those ancillary connections that happen, we've been able to do business with people that we never would have met otherwise. And those are doors that,
on that note,
yeah, go for it.
Question from the community. Sorry to block your face, Jeff.
No worries. No
Right.
worries. Let's see. Let's say I'm in a community mental health support network and mental health podcast called The Invisible Fight. I self-fund the full mental health group, will work full-time in the UK Armed Forces. And I was wondering if you had advice on how to approach local companies about sponsorship plans. So when it comes to sponsorship plans for the podcast, right? A lot of companies are looking for one of two things. One is numbers, right? So if you have volume, you have a higher chance. But the other one is laser focus, right? So it seems like you have a pretty good laser focus in a specific community. I wouldn't, me personally, and there's a lot of people, if you're talking to a shark, he's going to go straight for the money. But me personally, I would say I would invite them on and show them the value that you bring in your particular podcast. I wouldn't go straight for the money right off the bat, just because that's not my personality type, right? For me, it's about establishing the relationship. In that interview, I would be asking them what they're looking for, because an interview can go both ways. You always hear about people that go interview for a job, and what you need to understand when you go and interview for a job, they're not only interviewing you, you're interviewing them as well, right? Mm-hmm. And so think of the podcast interview as that. You're asking those deep questions on what it is that they're looking for. And once you know what they need, if you can provide that service, if you can provide that product or whatever it is, they're more likely to work with you because A, you've listened to them, B, you've given them a platform, and now you're offering them the solution, then the money will come afterwards. So that's how I would approach it. I don't want to come in with a sale assuming I have a solution for a problem that I don't even know that they have. So for me, that would be the number one thing would be to get them on the show, invite them to understand what's going on. ask about their biggest problems. What is it that they're struggling with? And then find a way to solve that problem for them. Sometimes it won't be a sponsorship. Sometimes it might be business that you interact going on forward, but sometimes it could be a sponsorship. It could be where you make a connection between two. We probably lost him because he's in Mexico.
Yep.
So it could be a connection that you make that leads to other opportunities, or maybe you can connect them with another place, another type of show, or whatever it is, because based on what the problem that the client has, and this is marketing 101, right? You need to know who your ideal client is. You need to know what problems they have, and if you can solve that problem, you're gonna win. What's up, Posh? Bonnie, we're working on your content as well. Your content should be ready in the next day or two. So, damn Mexico is what Jeff's just texted me. That's what happens, man. That's what happens. All right. They're going to be back in the US very, very soon. They're going to close escrow on their place soon. All right. So hopefully, MJ, I answered that question for you. If you have any other questions, feel free to either jump on and we can have a conversation right now, because that's one of the great stuff. One of the cool things about having a live podcast is we get to answer those types of questions. So let's move back into what we're doing.
He says thanks.
Yeah, there you go. Allows us to create that bond with the person and also build that relationship. Dude, honestly, I've talked to so many different entrepreneurs, super successful ones and moderately successful ones, and even ones that aren't very successful. And the number one thing that I noticed from people who are super successful is they value the relationship over the money. The money will come if you have that relationship, right? The doors that open up when you have those relationships are abundant. So don't go after the money right away. And trust me, I know it's easier said than done, because sometimes it's you need to put food on the table. I get that, right? But if you can build that relationship, it'll open up a lot more doors. All right. So I wanted to go back. So we've had conversations with different coaches, or at least James, you've had conversations with different mentors, different coaches about where we are in our insurance agency
in the last couple of days.
In the last couple of days. And then we've had our conversation for many, many hours today. So let people know, like, what's the situation where we're at, and what do you think our solution going forward is going to be, or what do we kind of conclude with?
Yeah, I mean, basically what we've gotten to is that we've built a pretty good system for handling workflow. We have an awesome team in place. I really love my team. I think they're amazing. They kick ass. Everything that they do. They are as passionate about what they do as anyone I've ever met, in a hourly position, right? Like this team that I have, they're incredible. They're super awesome. And we have the right people in place, and the processes in place, and the automations in place, and everything's in place to handle a decent amount of business. But there's no leads coming in the door. When we were talking just 5 minutes before we launched the episode today, we came to this realization that our lead generation system previously was based on the agents that we were able to recruit. We were recruiting all these different agents. They were coming on board and providing all these different leads. But when we stopped recruiting, now that we're not recruiting as heavily anymore, that lead flow has stopped. And Jeff's back.
So Jeff, I don't know if you were able to hear that what James was describing, because he had a conversation with Vidal as well, and everybody that we've talked to has always looked at what we were doing and has always given their 2 cents, and we value all those opinions. We absolutely do, and we're trying to figure out the solution, because we don't really want to scale down. We want to scale up. Right. And so when we were discussing what we were doing right before the show, even right before we launched today's episode, we realized what our lead generation system was. So, James's system that he created has been effective and efficient for a particular lead generation model. And our lead generation model was simple. And we were saying this before you hopped on, was, we go after people who have existing businesses and we plug insurance into their business, because our model says, send us the work. We'll do everything for you. All you got to do is get the signature at the end, essentially, right? All you got to do is bind at the very end. So we handle all that workflow, and our system is super effective at that part. But our lead generation, where we were recruiting, we haven't been doing that. And so what we came to the realization right before the show started is, well, that's our job. Like, we literally sit here and talk to people every single day, our job should be talking to a specific type of individual, which I think is going to be those tax pros, right? We're going to be talking to specific individuals who have an existing book of business and show them the value proposition that we have to increase our lead generation again, to put to work the system that we created.
But here's the thing, and this is what we were talking about, was those type of people are not fully. It's like a passive income stream for them. So yeah, they'll sell life insurance, they'll sell their health insurance. Okay, great, but they're making 90% of their money from their current portfolio. Whether it's a tax service or whatever other specifically tax service. So for them, it's like, oh, it's almost forgotten money in some ways. Whether people actually, the agents that are actually insurance agents, have to actually, that is their like bread and butter. Like they actually have to go out there and work for it. Where tax people like us, we look at it and we're like, oh, we can, we can just send something over to James, and it's he'll do all the work and we'll get the extra $100 or whatever it is. So
yeah, and you're absolutely right, and it's funny because when James and I were having that conversation, he's also we joined a mastermind. Well, he joined a mastermind in the insurance space to get other opinions of people who have successfully built agencies, and we're looking at what we have and we're looking at what they're saying, and we're like, what you're saying is exactly what we want to build going forward, but we have something that's existing that's already working. How do we feed that while at the same time building this other thing effectively? So I'll give you an example. So, when it comes to lead gen, if we were going after specifically homeowners or we were going after specifically a commercial, then we would need a lead generating system to bring those leads in. And then we need an in-house producer, a licensed producer to get that stuff done. Well, we have the in-house producer, right? Because that's how we are processing the work. That tax office is a licensed producer, so we can pay them a commission, but they're sending the lead. We have a team that processes the quotes. We have an in-house producer. So the piece that's missing, whether we're building a new agency, a traditional agency, or we're building the model that we have, is still in that lead gen. And that's what we keep coming back to over and over again, whether we target specifically the tax pros or we target the end client, which is that commercial client or that homeowner client. It's still the lead gen issue that we have to solve.
Right, but what I'm suggesting is that the lead gen that you're going after now is the people that are looking for it as a passive sort of income versus an active sort of income. Like I know lots of different, there's a few people that I know that are actually, they full-time sell insurance. Like they out there hustling, like selling insurance. And so if they don't sell insurance, they don't get food on their table. Right, when you're talking to a tax person, they're like, oh, if I don't sell that insurance this month, it's okay because I still have my tax business.
Yeah.
So there's a different mindset.
You're absolutely right. And you know what I think it is we have this bias. We have this biased opinion here. And the reason why we have this biased opinion is because we have people that are on our team right now that we've recruited who have an accounting firm or who have a tax office, who have turned their existing book of business from that tax office into another $250,000 in insurance revenue. So the transition in that model is there. And so for me, it's like, let me sit down and have a conversation with you and show you the value proposition. And yeah, you can treat it like a passive if you want, or we can treat it as, let us build this other side business for you that can be nice revenue generation. Because $250,000, you're right, $100 here, $200 here, it's laughable. But an extra 20 grand a month through the existing book that you already have, that's not to sneeze at anymore.
Right, but I don't see people that are, that they're making, if they're making $250,000 a year in insurance and they've basically turned over the lead to you guys and you guys manage it, right? Why would they work unless they're going to have to work less?
They're not insurance people. They're tax.
Yeah,
they're originally
tax
tax people, and we add that existing book. So You know, and it's funny. This is one of the reasons why this is a cool episode, by the way. For those of you listening, this is exactly what we do. Like, we sit down and we just hash things out. And I want to hear from every single person that I possibly can to tell me everything that's possibly wrong with this idea, because otherwise I don't know what I don't know. Like, and that's the value of being able to talk to other people, because, like, dude, just being able to talk to you, Jeff, about it, you give me a perspective that is different from James's perspective, because James is in the trenches every day, right? Dealing with these agents. And and you're absolutely right. We have agents that we bring on board and they just treat it like that little extra cash, and they don't really write anything. And when they do, it's not really that great. But then we have those other agents who treat it like a business, and they're like, this is another revenue source. I'm going to treat this like, a nice little thing. And now it's an extra income source, and they're super happy. Right now, they took their tax business that was paying them from January to April, and they've added this other one that pays them all 12 months of the year. Right. And so that's what that's the value prop that we want to be able to offer, tax pros, for example.
Yeah, I just don't know but I think it's not just tax pros. You're looking at people that are really having to. You're looking for a more comprehensive person that's going to look at each aspect of their business. Our business, we look at their entire financial portfolio, and we try to figure out, hey, is this something that's going to actually support your business? Or financial planners is another way. Financial planners is another, area that they're looking at their entire financial portfolio to determine, hey, maybe you need to add life insurance, or maybe you need to add corporate or commercial insurance or health insurance or whatever pieces that is. So maybe it's a matter of looking at different, tax is a great area, but maybe it's also looking at financial planners, or it's looking at different people that have more, bankers,
Yeah,
just
off the top of my head. Yeah, I'm thinking, property management companies, right? Property managers, because they got a ton of homeowners insurance. HOAs, for example, that's another nice little area. You're talking about CFP, certified financial planners, or registered investment advisors that don't want to deal with the PNC side. And that's exactly what we're talking about. That's the lead gen that we should be shooting for this particular at this point in time, but at the same time, start building that traditional agency alongside it. I'm just it's hard for me to decide to just start over, but at the same time, it's like, okay, yes, we can start building this other part, this other vertical within our existing model.
Yeah, and I think during this time, one of the things when you would go out and network, in the face to face.
Yeah.
Right, during that time, half the people in that room would be insurance agents or financial planners, right? And so right now, these people that are traditionally would go out and like hunt for their leads, they can't go out and hunt for their leads right now. Right? It's a matter of actually going out and hopping on Zoom calls with people. And like, how uncomfortable, how like weird is that? You still have networking, weird. But it's like, it's just different. But those type of people, the people that actually that are in business for themselves, that are self-employed, that are the insurance, these people that are going out and selling insurance, at every networking thing I would go to, there would be like 10 or 15 of them, and those are the people, because they had to hustle. Like there was a guy that, did most of our insurance, and has since, I think he's left the business now, because he's out there, and he just had to hustle, unless you're getting high value policies,
Yep. And that's really what it comes down. The insurance is nice like that. And the fact that you get that residual on a month to month, but it is a grind. You gotta establish the relationship. You gotta nurture that relationship. And then you gotta keep going forward. Like, the follow-up after that doesn't end after you close the deal. This is a lifelong relationship with somebody that you're gonna have, because they could easily go anywhere else at any time. That's why you have so many networkers and marketers. I mean, so many insurance agents at networking events and stuff. Man, dude.
And I think that's the hardest part, is we've gone literally probably, you know, we've established a relationship with you guys, but there was one guy that we used to do, we were with him for like the last 6 years, right? And we were just sending him policy after policy after policy after policy after policy because he was someone that we could trust. He was someone that we could rely on. He was someone that could help us navigate the process. He was someone that, would help us through the ins and outs. And, James has been really good at kind of answering all my questions and helping us, determine whether it's a pipeline policy or a policy through somebody else, if they would be the best for us. And, I really appreciate that candor and really appreciate that, thoughtfulness, because I think that's the way you develop. That's the way that, for me, that makes me want to send a business your way, because it represents us and who we are. And even if it is a little bit higher, that's actually okay, because it's more about like, hey, I can trust James and I can trust, working with him, because I know he's going to do the best for me and our clients.
Right. So again, it comes down to that relationship, right? That's what it really comes down to. Ladies and gents, this episode was a good one. You guys got to hear, this was what I could say a much more real conversation, because you get to hear our story a little bit. You get to hear, the struggles that we go through and the thought process that we go through, because that's what business is about, dude. I mean,
Did
that's
you hear from one of our advisors.
Well, yeah, that's right. No, this way. You get to hear from one of our advisors, right?
The Invictus advisors.
The Invictus advisors. But that's really what it comes down to. Look, lead generation is going to come down to those relationships that you build. You can go out and get every little individual micro policy, or you can start to build a relationship with strategic partners. And I think that's really what we're coming down to, James and I, is we're good at establishing relationships. We're good at nurturing our relationships. We should play to our strengths and we should focus our attention on there. And then having talked to our Invictus advisor here, open up the door to the different types of strategic relationships that we're going after. So,
hey, I'm going to throw one last little note here. There's this thing that I found out about in my last mastermind meeting, and it is called wealth dynamics. So I'm just going to throw this out there. It is a $97 test, but it basically helps you to determine what kind of what your strengths are in business. Just kind of reading them, like I'm on their website, just reading what they are: the creator, the mechanic, the star, the supporter, the deal maker, the trader, the accumulator, and the Lord. Right. So just giving you the titles of like these different characters or whatever that you might be, these different prototypes that you might be in business. And I'm going to take that test here pretty soon. And later on, I'll share my results.
All right, dude. We'll figure out who you are. And I think I got an idea of who you are.
I know we're wrapping up the show, but I just got to take a minute or two and, geek out with Hernan here for a minute about WandaVision, the last episode.
Derek says, "Is that like the DISC test?" It's very similar to a DISC test, but they just probably change up the personality types for business specific.
Yeah.
First of all,
today I lost more than you can know.
I don't want to have any spoilers, but this is what I will say about WandaVision. For those of you who have not seen it, you have to force yourself to watch the first 2 episodes, because you're going to be thinking like, what the hell is that? Right? But I promise you, stick around. It is worth it.
And who said that?
This guy.
I just want to keep it. I told because I went up last weekend and saw my parents, and I said, let's watch the last episode of WandaVision. And they're like, we didn't like it. And I was like, Mom, no, seriously, just get the first 3 episodes, and then you'll be great. And she's like, you're right. You get past that 3rd episode, and you're like, oh my God, this is such an awesome show. And I was like, yeah. So for those of you that aren't,
think of it like this: it's Disney. It's Disney. Yeah. They're not going to let you down. Disney has such high standards for everything they do. Even, you might not have thought that the Aladdin remake was the best in the world, but it was not a bad movie, right? It was not a bad movie. I haven't watched Mulan, but I'm sure if I watch it, I'm going to be like, that was a good movie, right? It's probably not my kind of movie, but it was a good movie. Disney does not let you down, especially with their core content like the MCU, right? They're not gonna let you down. So I can't wait to see Loki. Now that I've watched WandaVision, I don't care what they start with on that Loki series. I'm gonna stick to it.
But the next is Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That's in like less than 2 weeks. It's next Friday.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
and
saw that.
And leaving Marvel and heading over to DC this weekend is the Snyder Cut.
Is that right?
For Justice League, and I heard it's 4 hours long, dude. 4 hours long.
Crap.
But
Where on Netflix?
HBO Max.
on HBO Max. Yep.
Damn it.
Just watched Coco. The boys watched it like 10 times in the past few days. That's what I'm trying to say, right? Can't let you get.
We gotta get that. We gotta get that clip of Liam singing the Coco song.
The Coco song at Grandpa's retirement party with the live band. Right, that was cool.
That was awesome.
Yeah, no. See, a couple more weeks and we should be closing, but I can't get HBO Max down here.
Yeah, I know.
Womp, womp.
Once you close, we'll have a clear picture. You won't drop out of the feed, and you'll be caught up with the shows right away.
Mexico.
I know. It's like,
damn Mexico internet.
Damn Mexico. Oh, shit. Like I can't do anything. I'm like, fuck. Yeah.
Close. We're close.
It's coming. It's coming.
Almost there.
All right, ladies and gents. See, we nerd out all the time. That's just how we roll. That's what we do. It's a little piece of us. You get to see us on the Business Bros show, and that's cool. But hit me up. You know, you can go to businessbros.biz, talk with the bro. Even if you just want to talk 15 minutes about Marvel, we'll do that. Like, I'm okay with that. Fill my calendar with something fun to do if you want to. Go to businessbros.biz for your podcast mentorship, for testimonials or content creation, or just to talk Marvel MCU universe stuff. I'm good with that. All right, ladies and gents, we'll talk to you guys soon. Peace, y'all. Happy, happy SHIT. So happy it's Thursday. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Business Bros Podcast. Are you looking to get more clients or to increase your income? Hernan, the business bro, can help you generate referrals through the power of podcasting. And James, the insurance bro with Pipeline Insurance, can help you effectively add insurance to your existing business. If you are ready to create wealth today and generational wealth for tomorrow, email businessbros@csfirst.com to schedule a free consultation or join the Business Bros Network, www.businessbros.biz.